right. I asked a couple fellows to give a little testimony tonight, what they learned about Christmas as they grew up. And I did do that because I want you to understand that probably everybody doesn't understand Christmas in the same order which you did or do. And maybe when they come up it was different. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you think about it as they're giving their testimony. You think about yourself. How were you influenced about Christmas as you grow up? And is it something you still hang on today? Is it something you want to pass on to your family or something like that? And when they get done, I'm going to give us a couple minutes for somebody else to give a testimony, all right? So, Aaron, if you'll come, buddy. There's a microphone here, the wireless, unless you're going to stand still. Probably the wireless.
All right, well, I don't suppose there's a whole lot, but as a child, we never believed in Santa. My parents would always say, Dad, Santa Claus. Yeah, I know. I mean, Mom was putting him under the tree, but I remember one thing we always did every year. I mean, we celebrated Christmas. We knew it was Christ's birth and so on. Not exactly we know, but one of the traditions we always did is before we would open presents, we'd open the very large family Bible we have and read out of Luke chapter 2. Before we did that, and it got to be both me and Jared wanted to do that, so we'd do it once on Christmas Eve and then do it on Christmas Day. And it was always, I guess maybe in our mind, putting God first before we got to our fun. So we always knew why we celebrated Christmas, and I think that's what I'd like to do with my family too, is just understand it's not just the flashy lights and the commercialism and whatever, but it's all leading up to something like Preacher preached about this morning. So, well, that's what I have.
Did you guys hear this morning's sermon? Okay. No, after this morning's sermon, I fell asleep on the couch and I woke up and I realized it was 4:00 and I said, "Oh, that's right. I have to go and figure out what I'm supposed to say tonight." I mean, we all know if you were raised in a Christian home and you were raised under certain values, you know what Christmas is. I don't ever remember anything other than Christmas knowing that it was the day we celebrated Jesus' birth, knowing that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. So I contemplated some things, and I thought, well, what could I say that I could pull out of Christmas being raised the way I was? And it was thankfulness. Because understanding that we couldn't have everything we wanted, and knowing that when you got to that Christmas tree and some of your presents were just stapled shut into a Glenn's paper bag. Because why? Wrapping paper costs money. And if you don't have a lot of money and you're buying the presents, you just stick it whatever you can. And I can remember even one Christmas we had plastic army helmets, and they were just hung on something on the beam in the living room. They weren't even wrapped. They were just stuck right there with our names written on the inside. The one that's sitting next to the bookcase now, or by the leather couch. That was before the addition. Yeah. So thankfulness, Colossians. I got to explain stuff. Sorry, inside family stuff. I'm going to go to the book of Colossians here, and I'm going to read a few verses, and then I'll get into the testimony. Chapter 3. In starting verse 12, it says, "Put on therefore as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering, forbearing one another, and forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. And above all these things put on charity, which is the bond of perfectness. And let the peace of God rule in your heart, to which also ye are called in one body, and be ye thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord, and whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, give thanks to God and the Father by him. That's some instructions given to some Christians. And the one thing I want to point out is verse 15, and you could point out those whole 12 to 17, all them verses, is how we should treat each other any time of the year. But when we're thinking of Christmas and good cheer and being, merciful to people and giving people gifts, this is how we should treat each other. I'm not talking, yes, we should treat the world that way, but as brethren. Somehow we can't get along and we can't be thankful for each other and we can't forgive each other. But to be thankful, that was one thing that I'll say that I learned. What was and is Christmas to me, as Pastor said that he had asked us to discuss as a testimony. And I, like I said before, is the day that I recognized or was taught that was Jesus' birthday and when we celebrated it. And what he came to earth to do. So it was more than just Jesus' birth. It was who Jesus was and what he was here for. Our Christmas morning as a family, and I'm sure some of you have heard it talked about, is you got up in the morning, you got dressed. You weren't allowed to come downstairs. Christmas was when everything was ready and set, Dad would come to the steps. He'd take a picture of all of us, and then he would escort us to the dining room because we weren't allowed to see the Christmas tree or the presents. So we get into the dining room. We sit down and we had our special breakfast. Every year my mom would make French muffins, is what you call them. French breakfast muffins, and they were the healthiest things in the world. Don't ask me what the ingredients were, but all I know was they were rolled in melted butter and cinnamon and sugar. So they healthy, top-notch healthy meal. So we had that for breakfast. We sang Happy Birthday to Jesus. We would read out of Luke 2, which is the story of Jesus' birth, not the Christmas story, as was pointed out many times. And that was our morning. And then once all that was done and out of the way, then we were able to go out to the tree, and we were able to sit around the tree, and Dad would pass out presents to us. And it became a moment of not lavish and expensive things. We didn't get all the fancy electronics, and I'm not complaining. I'm glad I didn't have some of that stuff because I was taught how to play with a car, how to build Legos, how to have an imagination. And so some of these things I became thankful for because they were the coolest things ever when I was a kid. And then at that time there were many church members in our church, older ladies and stuff, who would also, give coloring books and whatever, and so they were added to the pile of things. So I was taught how to be thankful. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that we were some great children at Christmas time. Yes, we got upset because, I wanted that, but I didn't get it. Why? Because we're flesh. But the one thing that I was always taught was you need to be thankful for what you got. You could have got nothing. Yep. I can remember reading and having read Laura Ingalls Wilder stories to me, and they would get candy canes and oranges, and maybe their mom would be able to sew a doll together. And that was Christmas for them, and that was great. And as I've gotten older, I've begun to appreciate those lessons of appreciation. Why? Because there's nothing wrong with looking at your child and just say, you know what, you just need to learn to be happy with what you got. Because I've had enough Christmases with my children now to see that look of disappointment when the last gift was opened and they didn't get what they wanted. And I'd just be like, you could have just got nothing. And yes, I've had that told to me many a times as a child. But understanding how to be appreciative for what the Lord has given me has helped me out a lot as an adult, because certainly I want something. I want a job with more money, or I want this, or I want that. But God says, John, you need to be appreciative for what you have. Amen. Why? Because this last week I had my plans. I was going to go to work Monday, and I was going to go to work Tuesday. I had a vacation day for Wednesday. I was going to spend all day Wednesday at the hospital with my wife. And then I was going to work Thursday and Friday. And I would have a full week's pay. Well, the Lord saw fit to say that there was a circumstance to create so I couldn't work Monday and Tuesday. So I'm in the hospital all day Wednesday on a vacation day. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the adulty thing, and I'm going to get up Thursday morning, and I'm going to go to work because I was cleared. I was told I was fine. There's nothing wrong with me. You can go back to work. So go off to work. I'm at work for 1 hour, and the power goes out. The Lord says, I don't want you at work right now. And I had to be appreciative for the fact that I couldn't earn much of a paycheck this last week. Why? Because God says, don't worry about it. I got things taken care of. You just go spend time with your family. And so we can have all the plans we want. We can think that I've got everything under control. And God says, no, you just need to appreciate what I provided for you. So that's my testimony. That's what I feel that I've learned from my family Christmases, and what I would hope my children are learning from ours.
All right, with that thought in mind, has anybody, when they were telling that, something that happens at your Christmas that you remember